The Goliath cut through the void, a mountain of alloy and ambition against the endless dark. On the bridge, Captain June Kim allowed himself a moment of quiet satisfaction. The shakedown cruise was nearly over. Every system on the Titan-class warship, from its massive gravity engines to its smallest environmental sensor, had performed flawlessly. The ship was more than a weapon. It was a statement. A statement that humanity was here, and it could protect itself. His executive officer, Commander Sumi Park, approached his command chair. Her tablet glowed with final diagnostics. All departments report green, Captain. The final jump to Seoul is ready when you are. Thank you, Sumi, June said. One last long-range sweep of the Kuiper 9 periphery. Then we go home. Aye, sir. The order was routine. The Kuiper 9 system was empty, a graveyard of ice and rock on the very edge of charted space. It was chosen for the shakedown precisely because nothing was there. At the sensor station, Ensign Tae Hyun Kwan leaned forward, his brow furrowed. A flicker on his panel had caught his eye. A ghost in the machine, probably. But procedure was procedure. He ran a diagnostic. The ghost remained. Captain, Tae Hyun said, his voice tight. I'm picking up an anomalous signal at the far edge of our range. Bearing 027 by -45. It's structured. All eyes on the bridge turned to the main viewer. June felt the shift in the room, the hum of routine replaced by a sharp electric focus. Define structured, Ensign. It's not natural background radiation, sir. It has a repeating pattern, a complex modulation. He transferred the data. A visual waveform appeared on the screen, a series of precise, elegant pulses. It was unmistakably artificial. Source? June asked. Unknown. It's weak, but it's definitely coming from within Kuiper 9. A fixed point near the system's dormant ice giant. June exchanged a glance with Sumi. Her expression was analytical, but he saw the spark in her eyes. First contact protocols flashed in his memory. This was it. The moment every deep space captain both dreamed and feared. Bring us to yellow alert. Non-threatening posture. Power up the defensive grid, but keep it in standby, June ordered, his voice calm. Lieutenant Lee, can you make anything of it? At the communications station, Min-Seo Lee's fingers danced across her console. She was the youngest officer on the bridge, but her talent with languages and code was unparalleled. It's not any known human signal, Captain. The pattern is mathematical, almost musical. I'm trying to isolate its core components. It could be a beacon or a warning. Proceed with extreme caution, June said. Helm, plot an intercept course at 1/4 thrust. Slow and clear. The Goliath, a leviathan of human engineering, turned gracefully. Its engines glowed a soft blue as it began its deliberate approach into the empty system. The tension on the bridge was a physical thing. No one spoke. The only sounds were the soft beeps of consoles and the steady hum of the ship's heart. For hours they traveled. The signal grew stronger, clearer. Then, on the viewer, the source resolved. It was not a ship. It was a structure, angular and ancient, made of a dark material that seemed to drink the starlight around it. It floated, silent and mysterious, near a large frozen moon. It's huge, Sumi whispered. But there are no energy readings. No life signs. It reads as derelict. Scans show it's intact, though, Tae Hyun added. Surface material is unknown. No visible markings or weapon ports. Keep scanning. Min-Seo, any progress? I think I'm getting somewhere, Captain, Min-Seo said, her voice filled with concentration. The pattern has a foundational layer. I've built a basic translation matrix. It's like finding the grammar of a sentence before you know the words. June made a decision. Hold position 5 kilometers out. Deploy a full spectrum scan package. Let's see if we can wake it up with a polite knock. A probe launched from the Goliath, sweeping the structure with every sensor humanity had invented. For several minutes, nothing happened. Then the structure reacted. Not with weapons, but with light. Deep within its dark hull, a single blue point glowed to life, then another and another. A network of light spread across its surface like veins of ice. "It's powering up," Tae-Hyan announced. On the bridge of the Goliath, the air grew cold. From the center of the main viewer, a light coalesced, not on the screen, but in the air of the bridge itself. A hologram, projected from the ancient structure directly onto their command deck. The crew drew back in their seats. The figure was humanoid, tall and slender, clad in seamless robes of light. Its face was smooth, without a mouth or nose, only 2 large, dark eyes that seemed to hold entire galaxies within them. It looked at Captain Kim. A sound filled the bridge. It was a voice, but unlike any voice they had ever heard. It was water over stone and wind through leaves, a melody that was also a sentence. The ship's II, linked to Min Iso's matrix, began a rough translation. Words appeared on a secondary screen, forming slowly. *U are not the intended recipients. The voice was neither male nor female. It was ancient. The Guardians have been silent for millennia. June found his voice. "We are from Earth. We mean no harm. We seek to understand." The being's head tilted. It seemed to process the words. The translated response came more quickly this time. "Why do you wake us?" Before June could formulate an answer, the figure raised a hand of light. It was not a gesture of greeting. It was a gesture of cessation. The quiet is broken. The watch begins. The hologram vanished. The lights on the structure outside dimmed and went out completely, plunging it back into darkness. It was once again just a silent, dead hulk. What just happened? Sumi asked, her professional composure cracked. "I don't know," June said, a cold knot forming in his stomach. Tae-Hyan, status of the structure? "Completely inert, Captain. No energy signatures. No signals. It's exactly as it was before we scanned it. Min CO? Any residual signal?" "Nothing, sir. The broadcast from the structure has stopped. But—" She paused, her face pale. "Sir, I'm monitoring the standard galactic bands. The background channels, the constant chatter from the known alien communities in the local cluster. It's gone." "Gone? All of it?" "Every frequency we've ever monitored is just silent. It's like someone turned off the entire galaxy." On the main viewer, the stars looked back, cold and distant. The grand achievement of first contact felt hollow, replaced by a deep, unsettling dread. They had woken something up, and in response, the galaxy had gone quiet, holding its breath, watching to see what would happen next. The Goliath hung alone in the deep, silent dark, the only sound the frantic beating of human hearts. For 3 days, the silence was the loudest thing on the ship. Captain June Kim stood on the quiet bridge of the Goliath, staring at the main viewer. It showed the same star field, the same dark, unmoving sentinel. Nothing had changed. That was the problem. In the vast ocean of space, a complete absence of noise was not natural. It was a verdict. The initial burst of euphoria from Earth had been sharp and brief. The message, "First contact achieved," had sent waves of celebration through the networks. That celebration lasted precisely 6 hours. Then, the reports from Unified Earth Command began to arrive, each one colder and more alarming than the last. June replayed the latest. Communique from Admiral Yu Jun-nam. Her face on the screen was carved from granite. "Captain Kim, Conformational data from all our deep space monitoring posts is conclusive. The Voxian trade pulses, the Krell mineral holler chatter, the luminous corridor beacon. Every known alien communication stream in the local galactic cluster has ceased. We are not being answered. We are being observed. The scientific council's term for it is the Great Quiet. Your orders are to hold position and await further instruction. Do not, repeat, do not attempt further interaction with the unknown structure. He had acknowledged the order, but holding position was its own kind of torture. The crew moved through their duties with a hushed intensity. The weight of what they had done pressed down on every corridor dot in the Xenolinguistics lab. Dr. Ji-Hyun Yoon had not slept. The holographic recording of the guardian entity played on a loop. She had cleaned up the audio, refined the translation matrix. The words were now clear, but their meaning was a deep, dark well. The term guardians appears to be a proper noun, a name, she explained to Captain Kim and Commander Park, who had come to her lab. Her eyes were tired, but bright with intellectual fire. It is not a title, but an identity. The language itself is what we call a root dialect. It contains grammatical structures that are the foundation for a dozen known alien languages, but it is far, far older. It's like finding the primordial soup from which all other soups were made. And the message? You are not the intended recipients? Sumi asked, her arms crossed. It suggests the Sentinel was waiting for someone else. A specific someone. Our activation of it was an accident. A wrong number in cosmic terms. Ji-Hyun paused the recording on the entity's face. But the second part is more troubling. The quiet is broken. The watch begins. This was not a greeting. It was an alert. We didn't just ring a doorbell. We pulled a fire alarm. Back on the bridge, Ensign Tae-Hyun was a man obsessed with his sensor readings. He had gone over the data from the Sentinel's activation 100 times. Captain, I found something, he said, his voice scratchy from lack of sleep. When it powered up, it didn't just broadcast that hologram to us. It emitted a subspace pulse, a single massive burst of information. It was directional, but the energy signature would have propagated for light years. Anything with the right receivers would have heard it. It was a shout in a library. A shout saying what? June asked quietly. I don't know, sir, but I can tell you what it looks like. Tae-Hyun brought up a complex waveform on his screen. This is the pulse's energy profile. And this, he said, pulling up another file, is a spectrographic analysis of trace energy residuals found in Layer 8 of the Martian subsurface dig site, the one they could never identify. The two graphs pulsed on the screen. They were a near-perfect match. A cold shock went through June. You're saying the Guardians, or their technology, were on Mars? Millions of years ago. Yes, sir. It's a faint echo, but it's the same signature. This isn't just our first contact with them. This might be a recontact with something that knew our world before we were even apes. The implications swirled in June's mind, dizzying and profound. Humanity had been searching the stars for peers, for friends, for enemies. They had never considered they might be walking in the footsteps of ancient gardeners in her quarters. Commander Sumi Park was chasing another thread. She had command-level access to all the Goliath-S scans of the Sentinel. She ran the dark, unknown material of its hull against every database. No matches. Then she ran its quantum resonance frequency. The computer chimed, presenting a single, weak correlation dot. It was from a century-old telescope survey of the Orion Arm. A faint, unexplained distortion in the light from a distant nebula. At the time, it was dismissed as a gravitational lensing anomaly. The resonance match was not perfect, but it was statistically significant. The Sentinel's material had been detected before, far from here. On the other side of human-explored space, she brought her findings to the captain. It's not just one structure, June. There could be more of them. Sleeping. And we just woke this one up. What if? What if that pulse was to wake the others? The thought was chilling. They sat in the captain's ready room, the silence of the ship a third presence in the room. The orders are to hold, June said, more to himself than to her. But holding is making us targets. The galaxy has gone silent to listen. What are they listening for? Our next move? Or for them? The entity said the watch begins, Sumi replied. A watch is kept for a threat. We triggered the alarm. So the galaxy is now watching for the threat we supposedly announced. June looked at the status report on his desk. The Goliath was a fortress, the pinnacle of human strength. But it felt very, very small. He was a soldier, trained to face a defined enemy. This was not an enemy. This was a mistake, echoing through time and space, and he was responsible for it. That evening, Lieutenant Min-Seo Lee sat at her com station, as she had for hours every day. She cycled through the silent frequencies, listening to the static that had replaced the symphony of the galaxy. The Voxian trade channel was just empty hiss. The Krell dirge songs were gone. Then, for a fraction of a second, a signal stabbed through the silence. It was on a frequency so high and compressed, it was almost not there. It was not a message. It was a carrier wave, a clear, pure tone. And then it was gone. Min-Seo sat bolt upright, her heart hammering. She ran the recording. It was real. It had originated from a point roughly 20 light-years spinward. The direction the Sentinel's pulse had been strongest. She reported it immediately. June and Sumi joined her on the bridge. It was just a ping, Min-Seo said, her voice trembling with excitement and fear. Like a sonar click. But it was artificial. And it was new. It wasn't one of the old, silent channels. It's something else. Something that just started listening. Or something that just woke up. The great quiet was no longer just silence. It was the pause before a storm. They had pulled the fire alarm. Now, in the distance, they could hear the first faint sirens starting to wail. The Goliath held its position, a solitary human island in a sea of attentive, ominous quiet. The ping from Spinward had changed everything. The silence was no longer empty. It was now a tense, listening silence. Captain June Kim ordered the Goliath to full readiness. Shields were brought to standby power. Weapon systems, though still cold, were pre-charged. The crew moved with a quiet urgency, their eyes constantly flicking to the main viewer. It was Ensign Tae-Hyon who saw them first. Multiple contacts, he announced, his voice flat with forced calm. Bearing 010 relative. 3 vessels. Emerging from what looks like a localized distortion wake. Not a standard jump. On the screen, 3 ships resolved from the darkness. They were like nothing in human records. One was slender and angular, like a bird of prey, carved from silver and obsidian. Another was blocky and crystalline, facets glinting with internal light. The third was organic in shape, a smooth, pod-like vessel that seemed to pulse gently. They moved in a perfect, silent triangle formation. No response to hails, Lieutenant Min-Seo Lee reported, her fingers flying over her console. I'm broadcasting on all known diplomatic frequencies and the Guardian pulse modulation. Nothing. They're scanning us, Commander Sumi Park observed from the tactical station. Full active scans. And they're scanning the Sentinel. Their formation. It's not military. It's observational. They're studying the scene. For an hour, the 3 alien vessels held position, maintaining a respectful distance. The Goliath did the same. The standoff was a silent conversation of posture and power. June could feel the weight of the galaxy's gaze upon them. Focused through these three strange ships. Then, the crystalline ship detached a small shuttle. It was a simple geometric shape that glided toward the Goliath without any visible thrust. "Incoming shuttle," Taehyun said. "No weapon signatures detected." June made a decision. Let them dock. Bay 3. Major Song, meet them with a full security detail. Non-threatening but visible. Dr. Yoon to the docking bay. "I want a translator there." He turned to Sumi. "You have the bridge. If anything goes wrong." "I know the protocols," she said, her gaze steady. "Good luck, June." In the broad, brightly lit docking bay, Major Dae-hyun Song and 10 of his Marines stood in crisp formation, their rifles held across their chests. Dr. Ji-hyun Yoon stood to the side, a portable translation device in her hand. Captain Kim stood front and center, feeling the immense weight of his role. He was no longer just a captain. He was humanity's first diplomat in a silent galaxy. The outer airlock cycled with a hiss. The inner door slid open. A wave of unfamiliar air wafted in ozone and something like cold stone. 3 figures walked onto the Goliath. The first was tall, over 7 feet, with a slender avian build. Its skin was covered in fine gray feathers, and its head was dominated by large, dark eyes. It wore a simple harness of woven metal. The second was the crystalline being. It was short, its body a complex geometric form of translucent amber. Light moved within it slowly, like thoughts made visible. It had no discernible face. The third was a bipedal mammaloid, covered in short, brown fur, with strong limbs and intelligent, deep-set eyes. It wore a practical tunic of some dense fabric. They stopped a few meters from June. The avian being raised a 3-fingered hand. A device on its harness glowed. A voice filled the bay, synthesized but clear, speaking in perfect, unaccented English. "We are the witnesses. We mean no harm to your vessel or your species." June nodded. "I am Captain June Kim of the unified Earthship Goliath. You are welcome aboard." The avian's head tilted. "Welcome." A word of greeting and of warning. "You have triggered the Sentinel. The galaxy is watching." It gestured toward the mammaloid and crystalline being. "We represent a coalition of those who remember. We are here to witness the awakening and to warn the children who caused it." "Warn us of what?" June asked. The Guardians were not builders. They were shepherds. At the end of a war that scorched 1,000 stars, they placed the Sentinels to sleep. They were to wake only if the Devourers ever returned. The synthesized voice was calm, devoid of emotion, which made the words more terrifying. "Devourers?" Dr. Yoon asked, stepping forward slightly. "A species of pure consumption. They do not communicate. They do not trade. They only take. They strip worlds, convert stars, and leave only silence." The Guardians fought them to a standstill and then vanished. The Sentinels are the alarm. Your activation of it sent a pulse through subspace. It says one thing: the Devourers are here. June felt the blood drain from his face. It was a mistake. "We didn't know." "We understand," the avian said. "You are young. You stumble in a dark room full of sleeping giants. The Coalition's purpose is to monitor the Sentinels. Our task now is to attempt a quarantine, to send a counter-signal, to put this one back to sleep before its alarm draws attention." "Draws attention from who?" Major Song asked, his grip tightening on his rifle. From the crystalline being, a series of soft chimes emitted. The avian translated. "From any Devourer remnants that may still listen, or from others who fear the Devourers so much they would destroy the source of the alarm preemptively." The proposal hung in the air. It was a way out, a chance to undo the mistake. Your counter-signal, June said. Will it work? It has before, on accidental triggers by other young species. The process takes time. You must leave this area. Your presence adds noise to the signal. June was about to agree, to give the order to withdraw, when Ensign Taeyeon's voice burst from the comms unit on the wall. Captain, long-range sensors. A massive distortion wave incoming from the same spinward vector as the earlier ping. It's moving at incredible speed. ETA to this location, 10 minutes. The three alien witnesses went utterly still. The crystalline being's internal light flashed rapidly. The avian turned its head toward the bay's external viewer, as if it could see through the hull. The quarantine is too late, the avian said. Its synthetic voice finally carrying a trace of something. Dread. The sentinel's alarm was heard. By the wrong things. The mammaloid, who had been silent, let out a low growl. The avian translated its final, grim words. You wished to meet the galaxy, humans. Now you will. Prepare your vessel. The witness is over. The test begins. Chaos was a quiet, efficient thing on the bridge of the Goliath. Klaxons did not blare. Instead, a steady, urgent tone pulsed through the air. Lights shifted to a deep amber. Captain June Kim ran from the docking bay, the three alien witnesses forgotten for the moment. His boots pounded on the deck plating as he burst onto the command deck. Report! He barked, sliding into his chair. Commander Sumi Park was a statue of focus at tactical. Single contact. Size massive. Twice our length. Profile is organic, asymmetrical. No standard energy signatures. It's reading like a biological event mixed with high-grade alloys. On the main viewer, the new vessel swam into range. It was a nightmare of fused bone-like structures and dark, oily metal. It had no clear front or back, just a mass of weapon ports and grasping, tendril-like appendages. The witness ships? June asked. The avian and mammaloid vessels are moving to intercept. The crystalline ship is holding back, Sumi replied. They are hailing us. On screen. The avian's face appeared. Its large eyes were wide. Human vessel Goliath. This is the devourer probe we feared. It is a scout. It must not be allowed to return with data. We will engage. You must reinforce or flee. There is no other choice. The transmission cut. On the screen, the two alien ships unleashed beams of brilliant energy at the monstrous vessel. The attack splashed against a shimmering, honeycombed barrier that flickered into existence around the devourer ship. It did not return fire immediately. It seemed to be analyzing them. Then, a single whip-like tendril lashed out from its body. It was not a laser. It was a solid projectile moving at a fraction of light speed. It punched through the shields of the avian ship like they were paper and tore through its midsection. The elegant vessel cracked in two, the pieces tumbling silently, trailing fire and debris. A second tendril targeted the mammaloid ship. That vessel managed to roll, the projectile grazing its side. But the impact sent it spinning, its engines flaring wildly as it tried to regain control. It took them apart in seconds. Ensign Taeyeon whispered, horror-struck. June's mind raced. The Goliath was built for war, but a war against other human-like navies. This was different. All power to forward shields. Helm, bring us between that thing and the damaged ship. Target those projectile launchers with our heavy kinetics. Fire at will. The Goliath, a mountain of human defiance, turned and advanced. Its massive railguns, designed to shatter moons, roared to life. Tungsten rounds the size of ground cars sped across the void. They struck the devourer's hull. Chunks of bony material and metal sheared away. The monster ship shuddered. It turned. For the first time, It seemed to truly notice the Goliath. A dozen weapon ports glowed with a sickly green light. Incoming barrage. Sumi yelled. The Goliath's point defense lasers came alive, weaving a net of fire. They vaporized most of the projectiles, but 3 got through. They slammed into the forward shields. The ship groaned, a deep, metallic sound that vibrated through the deck. Lights flickered, shields at 60%. An officer called out, "Return fire. Concentrate on the largest energy signature near its core." The main particle cannons fired, a sustained beam of blue-white energy that burned into the enemy. The Devourer ship's barrier flared, resisting, but the beam began to eat through. It was working. But slowly, it's adapting. Tae Hyun shouted. The damaged hull sections are regrowing. It's using our own wreckage and raw material from space to repair itself. This was a foe that learned and consumed in the middle of a fight. A cold despair threatened to grip June. They could hurt it, but could they kill it before it learned how to kill them? In the comms hub, Lieutenant Ming-Seo Lee was screaming at her console, not in fear, but in frustration. The Sentinel. The Sentinel is the key. It was built to fight these things. We have to wake it up again, but not as a beacon, as a weapon. Dr. Ji Hyun Yoon, who had rushed to the bridge, leaned over her shoulder. The entity said, "The watch begins. A watchman has tools. We just asked it the wrong question before. How do we ask it a different question?" Min-Seo cried, "The pulse. The subspace pulse it sent. We have to mimic it, but modify the modulation. We have to tell it the threat is here now, and request countermeasures." On the screen, the Devourer probe fired again. This time, the projectiles changed trajectory in flight, evading point defense. 2 more slammed into the Goliath. The shudder was violent. A console on the port side exploded in sparks. Shields at 30%. Hull breach on deck 7. Contained. They were losing. June saw it. The Goliath was powerful, but it was a blunt instrument. The Devourer was a sharp, intelligent scalpel. Min-Seo. Do it. Whatever you're doing, do it now. He commanded. Min-Seo's hands were a blur. She isolated the original Sentinel pulse from their records. With Dr. Yoon dictating linguistic possibilities, she began overlaying new command structures onto the old signal. It was a desperate guess. She fed it into the Goliath's main comm array, focusing the broadcast directly at the dark, silent structure. For 3 agonizing seconds, nothing happened. Then the Sentinel lit up, but not with the soft blue veins of before. This was a harsh, pulsating red. It rotated slowly, aligning not with the Goliath, but with the Devourer probe. A beam of pure white energy, so thin it was almost a line, lanced out from the Sentinel. It did not strike the Devourer's hull. It pierced its shimmering honeycomb shield like it wasn't there, and connected directly to the core of the alien vessel. The effect was instantaneous. The Devourer ship convulsed. The green lights in its weapon ports stuttered and died. The oily sheen on its metal parts turned dull. It went dead in space, all systems seemingly scrambled by the precise ancient countermeasure. Now, full barrage. Everything we have left. June roared. The Goliath unleashed hell. Railguns, particle beams, missiles. Without its active defenses, the Devourer probe was torn apart. Its biomass vaporized, its strange metals melted and scattered. In moments, all that remained was an expanding cloud of debris. The bridge was silent, save for the crackle of damaged electronics and the heavy breathing of the crew. Smoke hung in the air. On the viewer, the crystalline witness ship glided forward. It stopped near the wreckage of its allies, then turned toward the Goliath. A simple, unmodulated radio signal came through. Min-Seo listened, then translated, her voice hollow with exhaustion. "They say, you have shown your strength. The galaxy has seen. They now know humanity can wake sentinels and fight devourers. You will not be ignored again." Then they just jumped away. They're gone. June slumped back in his chair. They had won. They had survived. But as he looked at the broken alien ships, the dormant sentinel, and the weary faces of his crew, it did not feel like victory. It felt like a door had been kicked open, and a cold, dangerous wind was now blowing in. They had passed a test they never meant to take. The price was now due. The debris field was a silent monument. The shattered pieces of the Devourer probe and the broken witness ships drifted in the cold light of the distant star. Aboard the Goliath, repairs were underway, but the deeper damage was not to the hull. It was to the idea of a simple, hopeful future. Captain June Kim stood on the bridge, watching the crew's work. The silence felt different now. It was no longer the quiet of being ignored. It was the quiet of being judged. The reports from Earth were a storm of conflicting voices. Some leaders called for immediate retreat, to pull all human ships back to Sol and hide. Others shouted for total mobilization, to build 1,000 more Goliaths and meet the coming threat head-on. Philosophers debated humanity's right to stir up ancient wars. News channels played the censor footage of the battle on a loop. The galaxy, it seemed, was not the only one holding its breath. Admiral Yu Jin Nam's transmission was expected. Her face on the viewer was stern, but there was a new respect in her eyes. "Captain Kim, your actions have been deemed necessary. The Goliath is ordered to hold position as a guardian of the Sentinel site until further notice. A science convoy is being dispatched. Your standing orders are to defend it." It was a logical command, but it felt like being told to guard the scene of an accident you caused. 3 days after the battle, the expected contact finally came. It was not from Earth. Lieutenant Min Seo Lai stared at her console, her mouth slightly open. "Captain, we're being hailed on a brand new frequency. The encryption it's incredible. But the translation software is parsing it. It's a multi-species packet. Origin?" June asked, walking over. "Multiple origins. It's a combined signal from. It looks like 12 different points across the local arm. It's being relayed." She took a deep breath. "It's addressed to the sovereign species of Sol vessel Goliath." June felt a chill. Sovereign species. The words were heavy with meaning. "Put it through." Main viewer. The screen flickered. Instead of a single face, it showed a shifting mosaic of symbols, brief glimpses of alien script, and geometric shapes. A voice spoke. It was a composite, blending tones and textures into something both strange and clear. "Humans of Earth, we are the conclave of relevant powers. The event you have precipitated has been observed. The destruction of the Devourer probe signal has been verified." The voice paused, as if allowing the weight of that statement to settle. "They had been watched the entire time. Your status within the galactic community has changed. You are no longer a pre-contact species, to be observed in silence. Your ability to activate a Guardian Sentinel and wield it as a weapon against a Devourer remnant makes you relevant. Relevance carries both privilege and burden." June found his voice. "We did not seek this conflict. It was an accident. Intent is secondary to consequence," the composite voice replied, not unkindly. "A child who finds a weapon is still holding a weapon. You now hold a key to ancient defenses. The Devourer probe was a scout. Others will follow. The Sentinel network is a shield, but it is dormant. It requires a warden." On a secondary screen, data began to stream in. Star maps, tactical analyses of the Devourer's path, energy signatures of other dormant sentinel structures. It was a treasure trove of intelligence, offered freely. The Conclave offers humanity a provisional seat on the Defense Council. The condition: you will share all data recovered from the Sentinel. Your vessel, the Goliath, will be integrated into the first response fleet, positioned at the fringe to guard against further incursions. June listened, his mind racing. It was not a request. It was an offer they could not refuse. To say no was to be alone, with a giant target on their back. To say yes was to commit to a war they didn't start. And if we accept? June asked, then the silence ends. Your communications will be added to the protected galactic channels. Your scientists will have access to shared non-military databases. Your species will have a voice, though it will be a young one. You will fight alongside us, not as subordinates, but as partners in a common defense. This is the path of relevance. The transmission ended, leaving only the star map and the terms hanging in the air. June called a meeting of his senior staff in the ready room. Sumi, Min-Seo, Dr. Yoon, and Major Song gathered, their faces drawn but alert. He laid out the offer. They're not asking us to join their club. They're drafting us into their army. But they're offering a seat at the table in return. If we refuse, we're on our own, Major Song said grimly. And we've already shown we can hurt their ancient enemy. That makes us a target for everyone, the Devourers and any species that's afraid of them. But if we accept, Dr. Yoon said, her eyes alight, we learn. We finally learn the real history of the galaxy. We understand our own past. This is everything we've ever wanted to know, offered in exchange for our strength. Sumi looked at June. It's not a choice, Captain. It's a responsibility. We woke this up. We don't get to walk away. June looked at Min-Seo. Lieutenant? You've been listening to the silence longer than anyone. Min-Seo hesitated. The silence was awful. But this is a chance to be part of the conversation. To have a say. We've been eavesdropping on the universe. Now they're asking us to speak. June knew they were right. He returned to the bridge. He opened a channel, not to the Conclave, but to Earth, to Admiral Nam. He explained the offer. The debate on Earth would rage for years, he knew. But out here, on the edge, a decision had to be made. Captain Kim has operational authority. Admiral Nam's response came, after a long delay. The Council is divided. Make the choice you believe protects humanity. June stood before his crew. He gave the order to Min-Seo. Open a channel to the Conclave signal. Send this. On behalf of humanity, we accept the responsibilities of relevance. We will share our data. The Goliath will join the first response fleet, but we do so as sovereign partners, not as servants. Our voice will be our own. The message was sent. The wait was only minutes. The main viewer lit up again. The composite voice returned. Acknowledged, humans of Earth, welcome to the present. Your voice has been added to the chorus. The silence is broken. And then it happened. Lieutenant Min-Seo Lee let out a small gasp. Her console, which had for weeks shown nothing but empty static on 100 frequencies, exploded with light and sound. Cascading waterfalls of data, streams of alien languages, mathematical broadcasts, artistic pulses, trade queries, and warnings filled her screens. The galactic network, alive and vibrant and overwhelming, opened up to human receivers. The great quiet was over. In its place was a roaring, buzzing, shrieking, singing cacophony of a million civilizations talking all at once. It was terrifying. It was beautiful. On the bridge, the crew listened, their faces a mix of awe and anxiety. They had wished for contact, for a place in the universe. Now they had it. It was not a gentle welcome. It was a loud, demanding, and dangerous job offer. Captain June Kim looked at the swirling data on the screen, then at the stars beyond the viewer. Humanity's childhood was over. The work had begun.